Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. This is going to be my second How I Would Adapt Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger into Power Rangers video, mainly focusing on now the fact that we have 3 additional Rangers since it's debuted. I'm going to wait to do any other ones based on this series until the end of the series after this, but since there's been a lot of main debuts and several changes with canon and stuff, I kind of wanted to talk about it because I was kind of excited about some of these ideas. However, after this I promise I will move on to other series of like how I would adapt Sentais that we haven't touched yet. But since last time I did this video in 1.0, we've gotten Stacy, we have gotten Zenkai Red, and we have gotten 2 Kaiser. Not to mention there's been a major addition to some Power Rangers lore with Dino Fury, which I wanted to add to this. So previously on Dawson Rider Rambles, I talked about how for the main plot I would either have him be an aspiring emissary, our main character, or I would have him be sort of a fan. And I'm going to kind of amend that into one idea, and that's the first thing I'm going to talk about. Because this first change in how I would maybe adapt this has to do with the Morphin Masters. So in Dino Fury we learn the Morphin Masters have been responsible for more things than we're aware of, including the creation of some powers like Dino Fury. So with that said, I'm going to change the sort of core premise I would have for the show. So I would set this show hundreds of years in the future in any one of the Ranger dimensions. Like, we know the Ranger dimensions communicate now, so it'll be in a Ranger dimension where they're aware of all the other worlds and all the other Rangers, but it will be hundreds of years in the future in which we're living in a time of peace and Rangers haven't been needed in a very long time. But there is a threat looming. So we have our main character who has a dream one night, and who comes to him is sort of like that scene we have in Zenkaiser where Aqua Ranger is in front of Zenkaiser, and it would kind of be like that. And he would come to him in a dream and be holding the gear. And that would effectively be a vision from the Morphin Masters, and Aqua Ranger would be representative of the very first Red Ranger of all time that connected to the grid. I don't know whether he would be one with the grid or his own character or something, or just simply a vision from the Morphin Masters, but that's what I would have. And that's how our main character would be inspired to make the powers and sort of know how to make them. The Morphin Masters wouldn't create him, but they basically give him a little push, a little nudge towards the powers. And basically our main character is going to kind of be a Power Rangers fan. He's not going to be like an obnoxious guy-like character, but he's going to be a huge fan of Power Rangers history, and he's going to be part of this wealthy family, kind of like Andrew Hartford, where he has all these resources to make Ranger powers. And basically he gets this dream, he's worried about this threat, but nobody believes him because there hasn't been a threat in hundreds of years. So even though he makes the powers, no one will join him in his crusade, so that's why he has to make the robots. So he'll make his own power, which will be inspired by, obviously from the look of it, the first Red Ranger, even though it's a White Ranger suit. And then the other 4 robots he'll base off of his previous mecha design. A lot of people always bring up the numbers. I'm just going to have that be the number of attempts it took to perfect the robot. So it took like 25 times to make Gown or whatever. And how I would handle that would be, I wouldn't necessarily use all of their humanoid forms from Zenkaiser. I would just have their default forms be their robot morphed forms, like that's how they were built. But they will have like disguises, like a glamour. So when they morph, we can still have a morph sequence, but just for them, it's basically them taking off the glamour. And I think some of them would be human, and some of them maybe would be aliens, because this would be like an SPD continuity where I actually remember that aliens are supposed to live on Earth. So maybe like Duran's suit can be an alien. But basically, he's in it for himself, or in it on his own, rather, because no one believes him. So him and his Robot Rangers form their first Power Rangers team in hundreds of years to fight off this threat because no one believed him. So, that is the end of my revision based off of the Morphin Masters. Now let's get to the new content and how I would adapt it. So, I would basically have it so that the gear technology that he uses winds up falling in the hands of 2 different people. So over the course of the series, a lot of this is kind of loosely adapted from Zenkaiser's ideas, but basically at some point the gear technology would fall into the hands of the villains, which allows them to access the morphing grid and create the Stacy Ranger, who I'm not sure what I would call him, but that's what would allow them to access that, allow them to access the gears to summon like faux Rangers and the robot and all that stuff, and that would be what happens on that side. Now for Zenkai Red, I would do a bit of more of a longer running storyline. I would keep him around as a regular character, and that would be sort of like a government organization getting their hands on it. Like basically, like I said, Zenkaiser was like, you know, saying the sky is falling and no one believed him. And then once people believe him and see that he's fighting, they want to use his technology and they wind up getting their hands on it. And that's when they create the Zenkai Red suit based off of his tech to make sort of an official Power Ranger. And he would it would kind of be an homage to the Quantum Ranger thing where he's like Silver Guardians and he's trying to recruit our Rangers, but they don't want any part of it. And you would have that as a running story as he'd be trying to recruit them and build his own team. And eventually I would actually love to see introduced 2 original Rangers, like maybe maybe a yellow and a blue that are also based off of the Go Ranger designs to join his team and sort of have them represent more of the official Ranger organization side of things, and then our main heroes representing sort of more traditional, non-like government organization Rangers. And there would kind of be like debates about what type of Rangers is like the real type of Rangers. And that would be like a long-running thing, I think, throughout the series, is have sort of this organization led by a real official Red Ranger and our sort of more rogue team. Now, for Two Kaiser, I have one main idea. I'm going to go off on a little tangent at the end about some potential alternate ideas, but for Two Kaiser's storyline in my Power Rangers adaptation, I would sort of loosely adapt his story for one funny reason. So, for Two Kaiser, he basically found the Go-Kaiser's look out on the Go-Kaiser's world, and he based his look off that. And I would have a similar idea, that somehow the Super Mega Force powers ended up in space at some point. I don't know, maybe Gosei sent the Super Mega Force Rangers off to destroy the rest of the Armada. Maybe they just ended up on the black market. I don't know, like the Dino Gems. But for whatever reason, the Super Mega Force powers at some point over the course of hundreds of years made their way off into space in some dimension. And we have a space pirate character who's going to be Two Kaiser, who found them. He liked the look of them, just like in Zenkaiger, and he adapted it. The reason I'm doing that is because in Super Mega Force, we never addressed the pirate theme, even though the Go-Kaiser suits do look a lot like pirates, which it didn't bother me as much as most people. Like, I know they're very obviously pirates, but whatever, we've not addressed the theme before. That's neither here nor there, though. But I think it would be kind of a funny meta joke to have this guy say, these Super Mega Force suits totally look like pirates, I'm a space pirate, I'm gonna use this suit. Now, a change I would make was instead of him using that like clunky thing as his morpher, I would give him like a new Mobirate that he created, and he would transform with a Ranger key. And then when he came to Earth, because he would kind of be an inventor himself, kind of like his sister created it, maybe I would have a sister character, I don't know, but he would kind of be an inventor himself. And so he would, you know, basically just create a new Super Mega Force Gold Power with a Ranger key, and he would kind of like that tech. And then he would come to Earth and see the Zenkaiser's stuff and be like, oh, I like that gear stuff. And that's when he would make the weapon and be able to use the gears. So the only Ranger key he would use would be the one to transform. He wouldn't have like two gimmicks. So he would just have a normal changer, and then he would have the sort of gear-based system on his weapon that he would use for the mecha and stuff like that. So that would be my main ideas, is have him sort of be a rogue pirate that steals the Super Mega Force powers. Of course, he would eventually come around and work with our heroes, and then you have the villains and a government organization get their hands on the gears to create Zenkai Red and Stacy. Now, my other idea would be that maybe Zenkai Red or Two Kaiser could also be the Morphin Master's next choice after the villains get their hands on the gears. Like, the villains get their hands on the gears accidentally, and hence, like I said, get access to the morphing grid and all its powers, and that would, like, anger the Morphin Masters, so they would sort of cut off Zenkaiser, and as a result, maybe they would choose Two Kaiser, or they would choose Zenkai Red as their next warrior, and they would get the support then after that, and you would kind of have this underdog storyline for our main characters. I mean, at this point in this recording, we're so early in, we could definitely see more Rangers, so I could do a similar storyline with something else, but I thought about, you know, there could be a story potential there if, you know, the Morphin Masters were like, look, I chose you for these powers, and then now all of a sudden these other people have their hands on it, guess we have to choose a new champion. But that was just sort of another idea. But I wanted to do this video because I was excited by all the recent Ranger editions, and I thought of ideas based on my adaptation. But what do you guys think of these ideas? How would you adapt the new 6 Rangers and extra Rangers? Let me know in the comments as always. I'm probably going to go in backwards order, but also if you want to, let me know what series you'd like to see me do next for what I would adapt into Power Rangers out of the Sentai we haven't done yet. But until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.